Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that's, on the surface, smooth, polished, and meticulously groomed. But beneath that glossy finish lies a tale so bizarre, so ritualistic, that you might just raise an eyebrow, if you haven't shaved it off first. Welcome to ancient Egypt, where priests weren't just spiritual guides but also walking, talking depilate devotionals. Imagine living in a desert, drenched in sweat, lathered in oils, and still being expected to stay completely hairless every single day, because that's what the gods demanded. You see, tonight we're not talking about pharaohs or pyramids. Nope. You're going to glide silently down stone corridors and watch as a young priest lathers up for his third full-body shave of the day, all in the name of divine love. Not just cleanliness. Not just status. But love. Because when your date is a goddess, showing up with stubble? Absolutely not. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is there. Always fun to see who's falling asleep with ancient Egypt whispering in their ears. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk through air thick with the smell of hot limestone and the faint, salty scent of sweat rising off temple stones. The Egyptian sun hasn't just scorched the earth, it's singed every follicle of your body and spirit. And right now, in this sweltering heat, you hear it, the soft scrape of a sharpened blade dragging across skin, the splash of scented water, and the whisper of exhaustion in a priest's breath. That's Menes. He's no older than 20, but his face bears the weary discipline of someone who's shaved his entire body 3 times a day since he could hold a blade. This morning alone, he bathed in lotus water, exfoliated with perfumed sand, and meticulously scraped every inch of his skin until he shone like a bronze mirror. And now he's attempting to trim his nostril hairs with what looks suspiciously like a very judgmental twig. The reason? Not hygiene. Not fashion. And certainly not comfort. It's divine romance? Seriously. In ancient Egypt, hair was more than unsightly. It was seen as wild, impure, almost animalistic. And priests? Priests were meant to be vessels of sacred presence, not patchy-legged mortals. Hair, especially on the face and body, was thought to carry impurity. To be desirable to the gods, particularly Hathor, goddess of love, music, and beauty, you had to be smoother than a river pebble. No pressure. And honestly, you probably wouldn't survive a week. Imagine slathering your body in fish oil-based wax in 110-degree heat, and still getting scolded for having a stray eyebrow hair. One priest tried coconut oil once. He was banished from the inner sanctum for smelling too provincial. You follow Menes deeper into the temple's back chambers. The stone walls are painted with images of Hathor, crowned with the sun disk, smiling gently. But there's a glint in her painted eyes, like she knows if you're not fully exfoliated. This is where priests go to prepare themselves for their appointments with the divine. A private moment of whispered devotion, of sacred longing. Not everyone gets to be chosen, Menes murmurs. Only those who remain perfectly pure. And by pure, yes, we mean no acne allowed. That's not a joke. One zit behind your ear and you're off the altar rota. If your supervisor sees so much as a rash, you're reassigned to polishing statues. Or worse, temple duty under Sobek, the crocodile god who does not appreciate uneven skin tone. At midday, Menes returns to the temple baths. The cool stone reflects his every movement. He pulls out a special exfoliating stone, a pale, greenish tablet called the goddess's pebble. According to temple rumor, it slows hair regrowth. Is it true? Who knows? But it makes Menes feel a little more ready for his daily act of sacred seduction. When you ask whether priests ever protested this grooming ordeal, Menes just shrugs. Historians still argue about whether priests genuinely believed in the holiness of all this shaving, or if it was just the only way to stay close to temple power. Maybe both. Maybe either. But one thing is certain. In a world where even a shadow of a beard could mean falling out of favor with a celestial lover, hair removal becomes not just duty, but destiny. The sun begins to tilt westward. The air thickens with incense and the faint sweetness of lotus blossoms. Menes stands in front of a bronze mirror, scanning his face for flaws, tilting his chin to check behind his ears. No peach fuzz. No rogue eyelash. Just the gleaming, slick image of a man who has erased every trace of mortal identity to become something else, a symbol. A vessel. A walking love letter to the goddess. And you? You feel your eyelids drooping, not out of boredom, but from the lull of the rhythm. The hum of temple silence. The water dripping softly on the tiles. The blades sliding gently across skin. And as you drift for a moment, caught in that smooth haze of ritual and heat, one thing becomes clear: tomorrow, Menes will do it all over again. And again. Until even his dreams are hairless. You blink, and the stone around you seems to sweat with the heat. Time stretches long in the temple corridors, and as the scent of lotus fades from the air, the sharp, waxy tang of beeswax fills its place. Somewhere behind the columns, a servant is heating a bowl over glowing coals. The wax thickens. The priest's fate, your fate tonight, is sealed. Menes is already stripping cloths, long strips of linen cut precisely, laid out beside a flat slab of alabaster. This is no barber shop. This is a shrine. And the ritual? A full body waxing. Again. It's not even sunset yet. You sit quietly, trying to imagine doing this every day. Not just your legs. Not your arms. Everything. 3 times daily. You think of your own razor, the one you half-heartedly run across your chin twice a week if someone important is coming over. Menes? He shaves before he eats. Shaves after he prays. Shaves when the moon changes phases. Because this isn't about looking neat. It's about becoming worthy. This, strangely enough, is about love. And it's not just romanticized scripture. No, it's much more intimate. In the Egyptian worldview, physical purity wasn't simply cleanliness. It was your signal to the gods that you were available. That you were ready. That your body had no earthly distractions. That you had, quite literally, scrubbed away your humanity so that something sacred could settle in. Hathor, goddess of love and joy, wasn't some distant marble figurehead. She was close. Accessible. Sometimes terrifyingly so. If you were chosen, you were expected to meet her through her image, her statue, her ritual. And always looking your smoothest. Tonight, Menes tells you, there's a special ceremony. A private offering in the sanctuary of Hathor's shrine. It's not open to the public. Not even to most of the priests. Just the select few who've been ritually cleansed, and who meet the strict physical requirements. Strict physical requirements? You ask? Menes nods solemnly. Not even a shadow of stubble, he says. Not even a whiff of sweat. He hands you a clay jar. Inside, a creamy gray paste, crushed natron and powdered pumice. It's gritty, lemony, and smells faintly of something like toothpaste mixed with sand. It's an ancient exfoliant. You look at him skeptically. He shrugs. The gods can smell your fear, he says. But they'll reject you faster if they smell your armpits. You laugh a little. But he's not joking. The waxing begins. It's ceremonial, but not quiet. You grit your teeth as the cloth is yanked away with a practiced snap. Meanies barely flinches. This is just Tuesday to him. You glance down at the reddening skin and think beauty is pain, but this is something else. This is mortification of the flesh in its most literal form. The ancient texts describe this process as a kind of rebirth. The priest shaves, oils, waxes, scrubs, and polishes until nothing human is left. And only then does he enter the holy chamber, head lowered, heart lifted, skin shining like gold leaf. It's not just for the goddess. It's because the goddess is love itself. And being in love with love, that demands preparation. Oddly, the most popular ritual items in temple records aren't scrolls or incense, but razors. Men's razors. Women's razors. Fancy bronze ones with carved handles, mass-market ones made of sharpened flint. The Temple of Hathor at Dendera had an entire annex dedicated to grooming. In one dusty inventory from a storehouse, there's a curious entry. 8 copper razors, 3 pairs of tweezers, and 1 silver mirror with an inscription, "To be beautiful is to be heard." You pause at that line. To be beautiful is to be heard. In a society built on rigid hierarchy, being heard is everything. And in the temples, being beautiful, meaning perfectly hairless, scented, and polished, meant your prayers might rise faster, your petitions granted, your spirit more visible. It was never about ego. It was about clarity. The wax strips continue. You wonder aloud if priests ever got tired of this. Meanies considers your question. Some do, he says. Some disappear into the hills. They say they go to pray, but they come back with stubble. The elders call it a crisis of faith. Or maybe just a rash. You smile. But there's something else here, something about the pressure to maintain this ideal. Not just physically, but emotionally. To walk between worlds. To love a goddess you cannot touch, cannot see, but must prepare for as if she might appear at any moment. Like getting ready for a date that never ends. There's a story Meanies tells you then. A tale passed among young priests. Once, long ago, a priest named Hika fell deeply in love with Hathor. Not the idea of her. Not her statue. But her. He dreamed of her every night. Spoke to her when he was alone. Left extra lotus petals at her shrine. They say he shaved even the soles of his feet, just in case she noticed. And one night, the statue of Hathor turned its head. No one else saw it. No one else believed him. But the next day, Hika was gone. All that was left was a single razor, perfectly clean, resting on her altar. Meanie shrugs. Some say he was taken by her. Others say he just walked into the desert, hoping to find her beyond the dunes. You don't ask what Meanies believes. Instead, you notice his hands shaking slightly as he smooths oil across his freshly waxed arms. Frankincense and myrrh. The scent swirls, thick and warm. It settles into your nose like sleep. The sky outside shifts from gold to violet. The ceremony is about to begin. Meanies dresses in a long, white linen robe, unblemished and thin as breath. He dabs his neck with lotus perfume. Looks at himself in the polished bronze mirror. Not checking for flaws, checking for stillness. A kind of inner smoothness to match the outer. As he leaves for the sanctuary, you stay behind. Watching. You wonder quietly if it's possible to be loved by something divine. To prepare your body until it's no longer your own. To scrub away the noise of mortal life and become, if only for a moment, something that glows. And as the silence returns to the bath chamber, broken only by a drop of wax cooling on stone, you sit still. Very still. Just listening to your own breath. The temple breathes around you, slow and ancient. Thick stone walls hold in the day's heat, releasing it now in heavy exhales that press against your skin. You walk slowly, barefoot, the cool flagstones beneath your feet a small mercy. In the distance, bells chime. Not loud. Just a faint metallic echo, like silver tapping glass. It means the offering to Hathor has begun. But before you reach the sanctuary, something draws your attention. A low archway, half hidden behind a curtain of embroidered linen, gently swaying with the movement of air. You peek behind it. It's not a prayer room. It's not a chamber of scrolls. It's storage. Except this storage room doesn't hold grain or jars of wine. It holds grooming supplies. Rows upon rows. You step inside, and your nose fills with a dozen competing scents: myrrh, dried rose, cedar oil, a hint of beeswax, maybe even something that smells, oddly enough, like lemons and damp linen. Clay pots sit on shelves labeled with worn-out hieroglyphs. Hair removal powder strong. Nubian charcoal paste. Crocodile fat and lotus blend. You open one jar. Inside, a chalky mixture with glittering flecks. When you touch it, the paste clings to your fingers, slightly warm. The room isn't sacred in the usual way. No incense. No offerings. But there's something reverent here. Something obsessive. You've stumbled into the temple's beauty arsenal. And yes, it's exactly as intense as it sounds. A single bronze plaque sits on the central shelf. You read it aloud. To serve the divine, one must first silence the animal. You're not sure if it's poetic, or just disturbingly literal. Then you see it, what looks like an ancient grooming guide, pressed into a clay tablet. It lists a daily schedule. Not for prayer. Not for sacrifice. But for maintenance. Sunrise, full wash, natron scrub, scalp polish. Mid-morning, facial waxing, nose hair check. Noon, foot shaving, nail cleaning. Afternoon, armpit cleanse, inner thigh inspection, oil application. Dusk, rewax where necessary, reoil always. You can't help but laugh under your breath. There are modern influencers with simpler routines. And yet, to the priests, this wasn't vanity. It was vigilance. The gods demanded clarity. Purity. A body not muddled by wildness, but composed like a song. And each part, each shaved leg, each oiled elbow, was a note. You remember what Menes told you. The gods don't want to love your body. They want to love through it. It makes a strange kind of sense. If your body was a vessel, it couldn't be cluttered with mortal leftovers like leg hair. That would be like decorating a royal chariot with garbage bags. Or arriving to a wedding in gym shorts. Still, there's something almost comical in how seriously this room takes itself. You spot a cracked mirror on the wall, polished to a shine. Scrawled beside it, someone had once etched a message in the limestone. If you can see a hair, so can Hathor. You grin. It's basically ancient Egyptian locker room humor. Probably carved during someone's shaving-induced meltdown. Which, to be fair, you're starting to understand. You exit the room and follow the scent of perfume and candle wax. The main sanctuary glows now, lit by rows of oil lamps casting soft, golden halos across every surface. Hathor's statue towers at the back, face serene, cow's horns cradling the sun disk, eyes rimmed in thick kohl, lips curled in an eternal maybe smile. Before her, a line of priests kneel, each robed in white linen, each shaved to glistening perfection. They sway gently as they chant, not words you understand, but tones. Vibrations. A hum that settles somewhere deep in your ribs. You feel it more than you hear it. Mimi's is among them. You recognize the back of his head, largely because there's not a single hair on it. He looks calm. Not worshipful in the trembling sense. But tuned. Harmonized. As the chant continues, an acolyte steps forward with a long reed fan, brushing the air softly near the goddess's statue. Not to cool her. Not really. It's to create motion. To mimic breath. To bring her closer. And you get it. For a moment you get it. This isn't about hair. This is about readiness. About how love, even divine love, requires effort. Not flowers or chocolates. But ritual. Repetition. Attention. You lean against a column as the air thickens with the sweetness of blue lotus. It smells like vanilla and soft grass, like a pond in full bloom. You close your eyes. The chanting becomes water. The flicker of oil lamps behind your eyelids becomes the ripples of a warm breeze. And then someone sneezes. Loud. Sudden. Startling. The chant falters. One priest glares over his shoulder. Another tries very hard not to laugh. The acolyte drops the fan. Menes does not move. He continues his chant, eyes closed, lips steady. Later, as the ceremony ends and the priests file out, you catch up with him in the outer courtyard. You tease him about the sneeze. He smiles. Every night has a flaw, he says. It's how you carry it that makes the difference. You nod. Then he pulls out something from his satchel. A jar. Small. Amber-colored. You raise an eyebrow. Crocodile fat, he says. For chapped skin. You blink. You're kidding. He shrugs. It's soothing. You say. That's disgusting. He grins. Love takes strange forms. And with that, he disappears into the night, the croak of frogs echoing down the Nile, the stars glittering overhead like scattered beads from a broken offering tray. You stay behind, staring at the jar in your hands. It's warm. And it smells, surprisingly pleasant. Almost like roses. Almost like her. You don't remember falling asleep. But you must have, because now the night is deeper. Cooler. And the courtyard is empty. A distant ibis calls from the riverbank. A soft wind brushes past the columns, carrying the smell of reed and dust, like parchment just before it's burned. You stretch. Your joints pop gently. There's a strange calmness in your chest, like you've been breathing temple air your whole life. And tonight your curiosity pulls you somewhere new. You follow the stone corridor past the sanctuary, past the incense store, past the wax room, and into a darker wing of the temple. This one doesn't smell like perfume. It smells like wet clay and charred oil. You light a small lamp and hold it forward. A carving catches your eye. It's Hathor again, but not like before. This isn't the soft, smiling mother figure with the lotus garlands and cow horns cradling the sun. No. This version of Hathor is fierce. Her eyes wide. Her arms open, as if demanding something. Beneath her, a priest kneels, head bowed, arms lifted, robes clinging to his skin as if soaked. You tilt the lamp, and something else appears, a razor. In the priest's outstretched hands. Not a weapon. An offering. You pause. An offering? Before now, the razors were always tools, used before a ritual, discarded after. But here? Here they're sacred objects. The carving shows it clearly, the priest giving up the very item that had purified him. You step deeper into the hallway. There are other carvings. Similar scenes. Always the razor. Always the gesture of surrender. Minis's words return to you. The gods don't want to love your body. They want to love through it. Maybe this was the end of that journey. Once the body was ready, once the rituals complete, the final step was to relinquish even the tools that made you worthy. You don't just cleanse. You let go. And yet, the rituals didn't stop there. You arrive at a chamber with low benches and shallow stone basins. This is the preparation room. You've seen it before in passing, but never entered. Tonight something beckons you. You kneel beside a basin, run your fingers along its edge. The stone is worn smooth from use. You touch the surface, cool, damp. And then you see it, a glint of metal. Another razor. This one old. Its blade dulled. The handle bent slightly, as if by decades of hands. And yet, it sits there like a relic. Revered. You don't touch it. Not because it's forbidden. Because it feels intimate. Like it still belongs to someone. In the next chamber, you hear soft chanting. Not like the formal hymns from earlier. This is personal. A priest's voice, low, steady, whispering words in the old tongue, words you can't understand, but the rhythm is unmistakable. It's a love song. Not for another human. For her. The lamp flickers as you move toward the voice. You peek around the doorway and see a single priest, barefoot, kneeling, shirtless, his skin glowing with oil under candlelight. In one hand, he holds a flower. In the other, nothing. His arms move gently, as if dancing with someone who isn't there. And maybe, for him, she is. He stops. Lowers the flower. Bows so deeply his forehead touches the floor. And he stays like that. For a long time. You don't disturb him. You walk away, careful to leave no sound behind. Because now you understand. The ritual isn't just to attract the goddess. It's to love her. Every day. Through discipline. Through silence. Through the absence of chaos. And through the constant reminder that even the smallest sign of disorder, a single strand of hair, can break the spell. It's love, yes. But not the kind with kisses and candlelight. It's the kind that requires devotion so absolute, you disappear into it. You return to your chamber and sit on the edge of the bed mat. Outside, the stars shimmer above the black line of the Nile. The moon glints across the rooftop altars, the statues, the offering trays. And you wonder, quietly, what it must be like to give yourself to something unseen. Entirely. Without a safety net. Somewhere in the temple, a bell rings once. It's the call to the final cleansing. You rise. Your joints stiff but your steps steady. In the cleansing room, Minis is already there. His expression unreadable. He doesn't speak. He simply gestures to a bowl. Warm water. A folded linen towel. A final razor. You look at it. Then at him. He nods once slowly. Tonight is special, he says. She is listening more closely than usual. You take the blade. You wash. You scrape. You don't rush. You don't flinch. Every movement is slow. Careful. Like writing a poem with your body. By the time you finish, your skin hums. Not from pain. From awareness. You're not used to this kind of silence. Not empty silence. Full silence. Like the kind before a song starts. Or right after someone says, I love you. And you haven't answered yet. Meanie stands. Adjusts his robe. Then smiles. You'll do, he says. And he walks away. You stand there, alone, skin gleaming, your breath the only sound in the room. And for the first time, you don't feel like a visitor. You feel ready. You wake before dawn. The sky is the color of crushed lavender, the stars fading like secrets slipping back into the gods' pockets. Somewhere in the far edge of the city, a rooster crows, off-key, like it's had a rough night. You stretch, but your skin feels tight, like it's wrapped in the memory of yesterday's rituals. Smooth, yes, but also raw. Open. And today, you're told, is different. Today, you're not preparing for the gods. You're protecting yourself from mortals. Meanies greets you at the inner courtyard with a faint smile. He's already immaculate. Linen robe, oiled skin, not a hint of fatigue. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he sleeps standing up in a vat of perfume. He hands you a scroll. The day's instructions, he says. Read carefully. You do. At the top, conduct perimeter purity checks. That sounds dramatic. Until you realize what it means. Your job today isn't bathing, or praying, or making offerings. It's guarding the sacred precinct from people with feelings. That's right. Today, your role is to keep ordinary citizens away from the temple, not for safety reasons, but for emotional ones. Apparently, some women, and a few overly enthusiastic men, have developed a fondness for the priests. A romantic fondness. Meanie shrugs. It happens more than we'd like. You blink. Wait, people get crushes on the priests? He grins. We are hairless, polite, smell good, and play instruments. What did you expect? You try to imagine it, someone sneaking into temple grounds not to pray, but to flirt. And it's not far-fetched. The temples are filled with music, scent, and golden candlelight. The priests move like dancers, speak in soft tones, and smell like an enchanted greenhouse. It's basically an ancient spa crossed with a boy band. But that's exactly the problem. Meanies continues. We're supposed to be devoted only to the divine. But sometimes people forget that. Or pretend to. Hence, the purity patrol. You're instructed to observe, to deflect, to gently, but firmly, escort away any hopeful hearts loitering near the shrine entrance. Especially during evening rites. Has anyone ever fallen in love with a mortal? You ask. Meanies' face turns serious. There's a reason we shave, he says. A reason we wear no jewelry, speak softly, walk with measured steps. It's not just for the gods. It's to avoid stirring the wrong kind of desire. He pauses. There's danger in being beautiful. And not just physical danger. Emotional chaos. Distraction. Attachment. All the things that the smooth, polished exterior is meant to suppress. Because love for Hathor must be total. undivided. That's the rule. But rules, as history shows, have never stopped anyone in love. You take up position near the east gate. It's a quiet morning, at first. A few villagers pass by on their way to the river, baskets on their heads, sandals scraping the stone path. One old man nods at you and mutters something about the heat. You nod back, holding the scroll like it's a weapon. Then she arrives. A woman in a pale tunic, holding a tray of figs. At first, she looks like any other offering bearer. But when you approach, she lowers her tray and smiles, not at the statue of Hathor. At you. You freeze. Blessings of Hathor upon you, she says, her eyes fixed a little too long on your face. You glance down. You're still holding the purity scroll upside down. She steps closer. You must be new. I haven't seen you before. You stammer something noncommittal. She leans in. You smell divine. Oh no. It's happening. You gently point her toward the general offering area. This way, please. The goddess receives offerings over there. But what if I want the priest to receive it? She asks, voice low. You wish Meanies were here. Eventually, with enough gentle redirection and a slightly panicked bow, you get her to leave. But not before she slips a fig into your hand. In case you get hungry, she says with a wink. You stare at the fruit like it's cursed. Later, Meanies finds you still holding it. He takes one look and bursts out laughing. That's the third one this week, he says. Don't eat it. Just don't. You sigh. This happens a lot? All the time. He nods. That's why the temple banned long conversations with visitors. Emotional entanglement is dangerous. You raise an eyebrow. So love is banned? He shakes his head. No. Love for the divine is required. Love for mortals is complicated. The sun rises higher, and the temple stones heap beneath your feet. You walk the perimeter again, this time more aware of how you look, how you move, how you smell. You wonder if priests ever miss being invisible. Miss having bad hair days. Miss being ordinary. And then you think, maybe this is why they shave. Not to become something more, but to erase what they used to be. Meanies joins you for the evening round. The golden hour light filters through the lotus-shaped windows, casting floral patterns on the ground. He tells you a story. Once, he says, a priest fell in love with a woman who came every week to leave honey cakes. He never spoke to her. Just watched. For months. You nod slowly. One day, he continues, she stopped coming. You wait for the twist. He left the priesthood a week later. Meanies finishes. Said the goddess had withdrawn from him. But we all knew the truth. You ask what happened to him. Meanies looks away. Some say he became a fisherman. Others say he wasted away, longing for something he couldn't name. He stops walking. Love isn't forbidden, he says. But it has to be placed in the right direction. Toward what doesn't fade. Toward what you can never truly have. That's the kind of love the gods understand. You both stand quietly as the last of the sunlight disappears behind the columns. And in that moment, surrounded by statues and scent and silence, you begin to understand why being hairless matters. It's not about vanity. It's about defense. A boundary between longing and loss. Between attraction and devotion. Between being admired and being consumed. The fig is still in your pocket. You toss it into the river. The moon is high now. It spills soft silver light across the sandstone walls, and everything glows faintly, like the temple is holding its breath. You walk slowly down the back corridor, where the floors are cool and the air tastes faintly of smoke and sandalwood. The evening rituals have ended, and most of the priests are asleep. But you're not going to bed. Not yet. Meanies meets you at the door to the inner sanctum, barefoot, robe loose, eyes serious. He holds a clay lamp and whispers, "Tonight you see what the outside world never does." You follow him inside. The sanctuary is vast, but shadowed. Walls carved with centuries of prayers rise around you. The air is thick with incense so dense it curls in slow motion. But what draws your eye, what takes your breath just a little, is the statue of Hathor at the far end. You've seen it before, but not like this. Now the room is quiet. No ceremony. No chanting. Just you, Meanies, and the goddess. She's carved in polished basalt, gleaming in the low lamp light. Her eyes, outlined in deep black kohl, seem to shimmer with something more than pigment. She's not smiling now. She's watching. Meanies kneels beside you, sets the lamp down, and bows his head. She listens best at night, he says softly. When the temple sleeps and the air holds no other voices. You kneel too, the stone pressing into your knees. The silence wraps around you like a thick wool blanket. Then he begins. Not a hymn. Not a prayer. A conversation. He speaks softly, like talking to an old friend. Lady of Joy, forgive my faltering breath. I was tired today. But I shaved. I cleansed. I lit the lotus for you. He pauses. And I missed you. You blink. It's not performative. It's not ritualistic. It's real. You feel like you're intruding, but Meanies doesn't stop. He continues, whispering little confessions, small jokes, quiet memories. I smelled honey on someone today. I wanted to taste it. I didn't. I saw a woman with her child, and I thought, what if? But I let it go. I stayed in the silence, because I wanted you to come closer. Each phrase is a thread, pulling something invisible through the room. A presence. Attention. Not fear. Not all. Something gentler. Intimate. He reaches into his robe and takes out a single blue lotus petal, dried, curled at the edges. He sets it on the base of the statue. She always liked those, he says, more to himself than to you. You don't speak. Not because you're afraid to break the moment, but because you feel her too. Not standing. Not looming. But near. And it's not terrifying. It's comforting. Like a hand resting on your back. Like the memory of someone brushing your hair when you were small. You close your eyes. And you feel her. Not just in the air, but in you. In the silence behind your thoughts. In the place where longing lives. She's not a goddess you fear. She's the part of you that wants to be held. The part that keeps hoping. The part that believes softness is still sacred. And then a sound. Not loud. A creak. You open your eyes. The statue has not moved. Of course it hasn't. But something is different. Meanies is still bowed. Silent. You lean slightly forward. And you realize what's changed. The flower petal is gone. You blink. Rub your eyes. It was right there. You're sure. But the base of the statue is bare now. Meanies hasn't moved. Neither have you. But somehow it's gone. You don't speak of it. You simply sit with the strangeness. The sweetness. The hush. Eventually, Meanies rises, stretches his legs quietly, and murmurs. She accepted it. You don't ask how he knows. You believe him. On the way out, you ask gently, do you love her? He stops walking. Thinks. Yes, he says. But not like a man loves a woman. More like a flame loves the wind. She keeps me alive. But she could blow me out any time. You walk together through the temple, past the extinguished lamps, past the silent columns, past the echoes of songs still stuck in the walls. And when you reach the courtyard, Meanies gives you a tired smile. You understand more now, he says. You do. Because tonight you didn't just see a ritual. You witnessed a relationship. It's not romantic in the way people think. There's no kissing. No holding hands. It's devotion with no return policy. And the body? The shaving? The silence? It's all part of how you say, I'm still here. Even when she doesn't answer. Even when she doesn't move. Even when the petal disappears without a trace. Because maybe that's what love is in its oldest form. Not possession, but presence. Not satisfaction, but surrender. You wake to the sound of footsteps on stone. Not hurried. Not heavy. Just rhythmic. Intentional. The kind of footsteps that belong to someone who knows exactly where they're going, even if the path winds endlessly. It's Meanies again, of course. He's already shaved, robed, and carrying a bundle of folded cloth. You're helping in the storeroom today, he says, as if this is normal. As if this doesn't mean spending hours in a dark stone chamber organizing the ancient Egyptian version of spa products. You follow him through a narrow passage into a room that smells like crushed herbs and heat. The walls are lined with niches, each one packed with jars, packets of powder, coils of fabric, and polished tools. There's a quiet reverence here, like even the soap is sacred. Meanies hands you a list. We need to restock the fan ram. You blink. What's that? He grins. Temple talc. Not the modern kind, of course. This is a sacred blend, powdered alabaster, crushed chamomile, and a touch of sandalwood. We use it after oiling to keep everything serene. You nod slowly, already imagining the TikTok ads if someone ever resurrected this recipe. Dry like the desert, smooth like the Nile. You begin sorting the jars. They're labeled in thick, careful hieroglyphs: cedar dust, desert salt scrub, sacred clay of elephantine, and something that might actually translate to "Don't get rashy before you see the goddess." And you realize, again, just how serious this is. These aren't luxury items. They're armor. They're the final barrier between your vulnerable, messy humanity and a presence that demands perfection. There's even a separate shelf for emergency measures. You read the labels. Scent neutralizing paste for unexpected sweat. Glow enhancer for dim light offerings. Rapid shave stone, warning, may cause tingling or regret. Meanies notices you squinting at that last one. Used by high-ranking priests when they oversleep. He explains. It's a bit aggressive. You both laugh quietly. It's the kind of humor you can only share when your life involves daily intimate contact with your own kneecaps. Later, you help mix a fresh batch of powder. The process is delicate. Crush the alabaster with a stone roller, sift the fine dust through linen mesh, add dried petals, and stir in just enough oil to keep the texture soft, like velvet and moonlight. You can't help but imagine a young priest centuries ago doing this exact same thing. maybe humming under his breath. Maybe thinking of Hather's face. Maybe crying because he accidentally inhaled too much alabaster dust again. Once the powder's ready, Meanies takes a pinch and pats it across the back of his neck. It calms the skin, he says. And the mind. You try a little too. It smells like old temples and new beginnings. He watches you for a moment. You're adapting well, he says. Some people never quite get used to the constant effort. You shrug. Maybe I like the calm. The quiet repetition. The scent of chamomile in the air. He nods slowly. That's the secret, really. The outer grooming is a path inward. It's how you focus the noise. Clean the clutter. You don't just remove hair. You remove distraction. You pause, hands still over a jar of rose ash. Has anyone ever gone too far? You ask. Gotten so obsessed with the rituals that they forgot why they were doing it. Meanies' face darkens, just slightly. Yes, he says. There was a priest once, Tephra. He was meticulous. Shaved 4 times a day. Oiled his skin by the hour. Measured his breath during prayer to keep his face still. You raise your eyebrows. He thought that if he were perfect enough, beautiful enough, Hather would appear to him. Physically. Tangibly. And did she? You ask. No, Meanie says. But something else did. You wait. He doesn't continue. Instead, he picks up a jar labeled Moonlight Ash and tucks it into a linen bag. There's a line between devotion and delusion, he says. Tephra crossed it. No one's sure what he saw in that final ritual, but when they found him, he had burned all his razors and was muttering, "She touched my face. I must stay skinless." You shiver slightly. That's why we don't skip rest. Meanies adds softer now. Even gods don't want broken vessels. You pack the remaining powders in silence. As evening approaches, the temple bells begin to chime. A cool breeze snakes its way through the corridor, lifting the edge of the cloth over the storage room's doorway. The scent of sacred talc clings to your skin. And suddenly, you feel very far away from your old life. From toothbrushes and razors and casual showers. Here, even a dusting of powder carries centuries of meaning. Here you shave to become less of yourself, and powder to become more of something else. That night, as you lie on the cool floor mat, your skin still tingling slightly from the ash paste, you feel oddly whole. Not because you've added anything, but because you've removed so much. Noise. Hair. Doubt. And maybe, just maybe, that's how the gods hear you better. When there's nothing left but intention. You awaken to the sound of flute music. Not the bright, cheerful kind played in festivals or weddings. This melody is slow, bending through the air like a silk ribbon in water. It slips into your ears before your eyes are even open, tugging you gently out of dreams. The sun hasn't risen yet, but the sky is pale. The temple stirs around you, soft footfalls, whispered greetings, the clink of bronze bowls being arranged. Today is a feast day. But not for the people. Today is for her. For Hather. And unlike the silent ceremonies of the week, this one is personal. Romantic. You wrap your robe around your shoulders and follow the music. It weaves through the halls like it knows where it's going, and you, half asleep, just trail behind. As you pass through a courtyard, you catch sight of Meanie sitting under the fig tree. His flute rests in his lap, but he doesn't look at you. His eyes are closed, as if listening to a memory only he can hear. You sit beside him. Quietly. She loves music, he says without opening his eyes. Especially when it's played for no one else to hear. You nod, unsure what to say. After a pause, he adds, "This morning is the kiss of the dawn, the offering of sound, scent, and soul. Just us and her." You think it sounds like the beginning of a love story. He smiles. It is. Every time. And it turns out, he's not wrong. The priests begin gathering in the sanctuary, but this time, no one carries oil or powder or incense. Just instruments. Harps. Flutes. Small hand drums wrapped in linen. And flowers, fresh lotus blossoms still dewy from the river bank. There is no announcement. No fanfare. Just a long, rising note from a harp, and suddenly, everyone is playing. The sound is ethereal, delicate, like glass humming in sunlight. The melody twists and unravels, layering flute over harp, voice over breath. It doesn't sound like worship. It sounds like longing. It sounds like a love letter no one expects to be answered, but writes anyway. And then the scent begins. Not incense. Perfume. A priest walks slowly through the sanctuary with a bronze dish of steaming water infused with cinnamon bark and crushed myrtle. The scent floats upward, blending with the music, curling around the pillars like a lover's arms. And in the middle of it all, her. The statue of Hathor. You swear she's changed. Just a little. Her lips seem fuller. Her head tilted. Her eyes slightly more alive. You know it's impossible. You know it's stone. But something inside you stirs. And it's not fear. It's tenderness. Menes begins to sing. Not loudly. Not with projection or precision. Just softly. As if he's leaning into someone's ear. He sings of beauty. Of loneliness. Of waiting by the river for someone who never comes, but still brushing your hair and smoothing your robe, just in case. You glance around. The other priest's eyes are closed. Some sway. Some smile. One, just barely, is crying. And in this moment, you realize something. They're not worshipping Hathor. They're in love with her. Not as a deity. Not as a concept. But as a presence. A person. A woman they cannot touch, but still prepare for every single day. You remember Menes saying, "The gods don't want to love your body. They want to love through it." And now it hits you harder than before. They're not just removing their hair for the goddess. They're making themselves vessels of desire. Channels for devotion. Chambers for longing. Because in this world, love isn't something you consume. It's something you carry. And carry. And carry. Even when it never speaks back. Even when it leaves no trace. There's a story Menes tells you after the music ends. Long ago, during a celebration like this, a young priest named Harai sang so beautifully, the statue of Hathor wept. They say she cried 3 tears. One for the joy of being loved. One for the pain of not being able to return it. And one for the priest himself. The tears turned into tiny blue gems, which were buried beneath the altar. No one ever found them again. But the story lives. You ask Menes if he believes it. He just says, "Does it matter?" You help gather the flowers after the ceremony. Your hands smell of pollen and river mist. The sanctuary slowly empties, but you linger. You walk up to the statue. You don't speak. You don't ask anything. You simply breathe. And in your heart, there is a strange ache. Not sorrow. Not yearning. Just the quiet burn of feeling something that has nowhere to go. The priests call it Hathorian affection, the love that builds from being near something too vast to hold. It isn't romance. It's recognition. And it never leaves. Even after the music ends. Even when the statue is just stone again. That night, you dream of blue petals falling like snow. And in the silence of that dream, a voice you do not recognize whispers one word. More. Morning arrives like a whisper this time, soft, reluctant, still tasting of dreams. You stir on your mat, eyes half open, body aching from a night spent not in sleep, but in something deeper. You dreamed of music and stone, of eyes that do not blink and yet see everything. And you woke with that one word still pulsing somewhere in your chest. More. It doesn't make sense. And yet it makes all the sense in the world. You rise slowly. Your robe is still folded neatly where you left it. You dress, splash cool water on your face, and begin the morning cleansing without being told. No meanies. No instructions. Just the rhythm now. It lives in you. You've become the ritual. Today's tasks take you beyond the temple walls for the first time in days. There's an errand, supplies from the market, a package of crushed natron delayed by river barge. Simple, mundane. But the moment you step outside, the air feels different. Sharp. Loud. Full of laughter, sweat, smoke, shouting. And eyes. So many eyes. You've been in the temple so long that the outside world feels messy. Unshaved. Unfiltered. You pass by a group of children chasing a goat, 2 merchants arguing over linen thread, a woman haggling for garlic, her thick braid bouncing with every shout. The smell of fish, dung, honeyed bread, it slams into you like a festival. Your senses revolt. You feel exposed. And you suddenly understand something you hadn't before. Hairlessness isn't just about sacredness. It's a boundary. A way to say, I don't belong to this. Not to the clamor, the gossip, the roughness of life. Your body, smooth, powdered, polished, is not a part of the street anymore. It's a mirror of the divine. And out here? Mirrors crack. You collect the supplies and hurry back. But not fast enough. She finds you. A woman near the flower stalls. Young, but her eyes are older than yours. She watches you approach, and without shame, she smiles. You're one of them, aren't you? You hesitate. One of who? The temple boys, she says. The polished ones. You glance around. No guards. No meanies. Just her. Her hands are stained from crushing hibiscus. Her dress is simple, but her gaze is steady. Do you ever get tired of being touched by gods? She asks. You blink. We don't. Oh, I know, she says, stepping closer. It's all very pure. Very distant. Very smooth. Her voice drips irony. You're laughing at us, you say. She shrugs. A little. You shave away your wildness and call it devotion. But maybe it's just fear. You swallow. She leans closer. You ever miss the way things grow? You don't answer. You walk away. Quickly. Back inside the temple walls, your breath finally evens. The noise fades. The air smells of burnt cedar again. You're home. And yet her words stay with you, like grit under polished skin. You find meanies arranging scrolls in the eastern corridor. He looks up, sees your face. What happened? He asks. You tell him. Mostly. You leave out the part about the way her eyes made you feel suddenly, painfully visible. He listens. then says, "There's always someone who thinks surrender is weakness. That discipline is denial." He rolls up a scroll. "But they don't know what it means to be chosen. To stand before something ancient and try to make yourself worthy." You nod. Still, the question lingers, do you miss the way things grow? That night you dream again. This time, you're standing before a mirror, not bronze, but glass. Your body is flawless. Smooth. Luminous. But when you look closer, your reflection is weeping. Hair grows from your eyes. Not metaphorically. Literally. Long, curling lashes erupting from the whites of your eyes, cascading down your cheeks like vines. You try to wipe them away, but they only grow faster. You wake in a sweat. Meanies finds you pacing in the hallway. "Nightmares?" he asks. You nod. He doesn't offer comfort. Just the truth. Some of us choose the blade. Some of us are born needing it. He walks away. And you're left with the echo of her question, hanging in the quiet. Do you miss the way things grow? You glance down at your hands. Still smooth. Still obedient. And you wonder, for the first time, if your devotion is still about love. Or if it's just about control. The next morning begins not with the soft ringing of bells or the scent of lotus oil, but with a scream. It's distant, muffled by thick temple walls, but unmistakably human. You freeze mid-pour, a ladle of water hovering over your forearms. Your morning wash is interrupted as the scream cuts off suddenly, abrupt, like a blade through silk. You listen. Silence returns. And then footsteps. Fast. Urgent. Meanies appears moments later in the corridor, robes hastily gathered, a streak of unshaven stubble along his jaw that tells you something's wrong before he even speaks. "Accident," he says. "In the waxing chamber." You follow without question. The temple feels tense, like a harp's string pulled too tight. A group of younger priests hover at the chamber door, whispering, wide-eyed. You push past them into the room, the air thick with the scent of scorched beeswax and burned herbs. At the center lies a priest, older, trembling, clutching his arm. A wax pot has overturned. His skin is blistered, shiny and red where the wax pooled. You kneel beside him. His breathing is fast, but shallow. His eyes dart around the room, not in pain, but in shame. He's not worried about the burn. He's terrified of what it means. "I didn't finish," he whispers. "I didn't finish." His arm, hairy in patches, shakes uncontrollably. Meanies nods solemnly. "We'll take care of it." You help clean the wound, apply cooling ointment. But the real wound isn't physical. It's the break in the ritual. The temple isn't kind to unfinished things. Later, as the priest is carried away, another elder approaches Meanies and speaks quietly, with a look that says more than words ever could. You know what it means. He's being reassigned. No more inner sanctum. No more offerings. He's impure now. And not just because of the hair. Because of the fear. You sit beside Meanies in the quiet afterward. He hands you a damp cloth to wipe your hands. "You see why we don't joke about the rituals," he says. "Why we repeat them. Why we memorize every step." You nod. But something stirs in you, something colder. A question you don't want to ask. "So if someone makes a mistake," you say slowly, "they just lose everything?" Meanies doesn't answer right away. Finally, he says, "It depends." "On what?" "On whether the goddess forgives you faster than the temple does." You sit in silence. Later that day, you visit the stone corridor where the priesthood stores old tools, razors dulled by time, broken incense burners, cracked oil dishes. There's no ceremony here. Just objects too sacred to throw away, but too damaged to use. Discarded, but not forgotten. You find yourself wondering, is that where the burned priest ends up? Not punished. Just shelved. There's a stone box near the back. You open it, expecting more broken blades. Instead, you find notes. Dozens. Scrawled in red and black ink, barely legible on papyrus. Short phrases. Some crossed out. Some smeared. One reads, "She didn't look at me today." Another, "I missed a patch under my chin." And another, "If I leave now, will she follow me?" They're not temple records. They're confessions. Maybe written by priests too afraid to speak them aloud. You gather them, sit in the quiet, and read. Each note feels like a breath held too long. Like a prayer whispered into the wrong ear. And the more you read, the more you understand. The rituals aren't just about purity. They're a way to feel in control of something you'll never fully grasp. Love. Not the soft kind with candlelight and shared meals. The other kind. The one that doesn't always love you back. The one that expects everything and gives, maybe nothing. It's beautiful. It's terrifying. And it demands skin. You return to your chamber that night with a strange heaviness. Your razor sits on the stone ledge, gleaming. You pick it up, feel its weight. You begin to shave. But slowly. Not to erase anything. Not to perfect anything. Just to remember who you are beneath the surface. The blade whispers across your skin, and with each stroke, you ask yourself, would she still love me if I stopped? Would I still love her if she never answered again? Do I even know the difference? You finish. Dry your hands. And as you lie down, a voice in your head, not hers, but maybe close, whispers, "As long as you keep showing up, so will I." You fall asleep wondering if that's true. And if it is, whether it's worth it. The heat today is relentless. Even in the shaded halls of the temple, the stone beneath your feet pulses with warmth. Your linen robe clings to your back. Sweat beads behind your knees. The air doesn't move. You wonder briefly if this is what a clay pot feels like in a kiln. Menes isn't in his usual spot. Nor are any of the other priests. You find them gathered in the main sanctuary, standing in tight clusters, whispering. The statue of Hathor looms above, still as always, her obsidian gaze cast over the room. Then you hear the word ripple through the air. Movement. You blink. What do you mean, movement? A younger priest, wide-eyed and whispering too fast, leans in. Last night. She moved. You scoff reflexively. The statue? He nods. Turned. Just a little. Just the chin. You raise an eyebrow. Did anyone see it? Not with their eyes, he says. But we felt it. You stare at him for a moment, unsure if this is devotion, delusion, or both. Then Menes appears. He says nothing. But his face confirms it. Something happened. He leads you aside into one of the smaller shrine rooms. The air here is cooler, somehow. Or maybe just quieter. He closes the curtain behind you. She's restless, he says. You wait. We've done everything. The cleansing. The offerings. The kiss of the dawn. But she hasn't spoken in weeks. You frown. She never speaks. Not in words, Mimi's replies, but in presence, in feeling, in warmth. You know when she's near. You nod slowly. You do know. So what changed? He hesitates, then lowers his voice. We think someone broke a vow. You feel your chest tighten. Who? We don't know. He doesn't have to say what you're both thinking. It could have been the burned priest. It could have been someone else. It could have been you. Later that afternoon, the high priest calls an emergency inspection. Every priest must present themselves, bare, silent, eyes lowered. Not for punishment. For reassurance. The inspection isn't about discipline. It's about fear. About regaining control. About proving, outwardly, that inwardly everything is fine. You stand in line with the others. Mimi stands beside you, composed. Acolytes walk through the row with small brushes, ostensibly checking for stray hairs, but really looking for something else. A twitch. A tremor. A break in the mask. You hold still. Breathe evenly. One of the brushes flicks along your arm. The acolyte pauses. Looks at your elbow. Then moves on. The relief floods you like rain. When it's over, the high priest announces a new rule. All shaving must now be supervised. You glance at Mimi's. His mouth is a flat line. Supervised shaving. It sounds absurd. Intimate. Borderline insulting. But it's already being enforced. You report to the preparation chamber the next morning. Mimi's is there, seated cross-legged, holding a fresh cloth, a bowl of warm water, and an expression that's somewhere between resigned and exhausted. Let's get this over with, he mutters. You sit. The stone beneath you cold. He begins with your arms. Quiet. Efficient. The blade whispering across your skin like a secret. Then your neck. Then your shoulders. You feel exposed. Not physically, but emotionally. This is a kind of vulnerability that rituals can't polish away. You look at him. His face is close. Focused. Do you ever get tired of this? You ask. He doesn't stop shaving. Yes. Then why stay? He pauses. Looks you in the eye. Because when she's here, it's worth everything. You nod. You want to believe that. But something tugs at you, a memory. The figure. The flower girl. The burning wax. The broken vow. You ask, what if she never comes back? He doesn't answer. That night, the sanctuary feels empty. The lamps flicker. The petals wilt faster than usual. The air is too still. Even the statue seems more like a statue. Mimi's plays his flute. But the song sounds hollow. And for the first time, the echo doesn't return. The other priests don't notice. Or they pretend not to. But you do. And as you lie down to sleep, skin cool from the shave, your heart hot with doubt, you wonder if the silence isn't punishment, but distance. Maybe she didn't move because she was angry. Maybe she moved because she was leaving. And maybe the smoothest skin in the world can't bring her back. Morning comes without music. No flutes. No soft chant to wake the air. No incense curling beneath the doorway. Just silence. Thick, dry, unrelenting. You sit up slowly, robe clinging to the back of your neck. The stone floor beneath you feels rougher than usual, like the temple has lost its polish overnight. The priests are subdued at breakfast. Movements slower. Conversations shorter. Someone drops a ladle, and no one laughs. Something is missing. You know what it is. She hasn't returned. And the temple is beginning to fray. Later, during the midday inspection, a whisper begins to circulate. A priest has been expelled. Not quietly. Not discreetly. Publicly. The courtyard is full when it happens. You're called out with the others, blinking into the sun. The high priest stands in the center, expression carved from granite. A young man, barely older than a boy, is brought forward. His name is Keith. You remember him. Shy. Careful. Always quiet during group prayers. He once handed you a cloth when you spilled rose water during a ritual. Now his head is bowed. He looks like he hasn't slept. His arms are hairy. Very hairy. You gasp before you realize you've done it out loud. Minnie stares straight ahead, unmoving. Keith has violated the laws of sacred presentation, the high priest announces. He has grown hair on purpose. There is a collective inhalation, sharp as a blade drawn in the dark. On purpose? This isn't neglect. This is defiance. The high priest continues. He refused cleansing. He hid his growth. He rejected the rituals. And worse, he claims it is natural. The word is spat like spoiled milk. You glance at Keith. His lips move, but no sound comes out. You lean forward just enough to hear the final whisper. She didn't notice me, no matter how smooth I was. Your stomach turns. This wasn't rebellion. This was heartbreak. They drag him from the temple gates. He doesn't resist. Just walks with his head down, the sunlight flashing off his unshaven arms like an accusation. No one speaks for a long time. Back inside, Minnie's finally breaks the silence. He fell in love with the image, he says, and forgot about the presence. You nod slowly, not entirely understanding. He adds, he wanted her to see him, not what he became for her. You pause. So, what do we become? Meanies answers with a question of his own. What do you think Hathor desires more, a polished mirror or someone who accepts being unseen? You don't know. Maybe no one does. That night you visit the small storeroom where the broken tools are kept. You're not sure why. Maybe looking for something. Maybe leaving something behind. You open the old drawer where the priest's confessions were kept. Some are gone now, taken by others, maybe burned, maybe simply decayed. But one remains. It reads, I shaved everything and still felt too visible. You close the drawer quietly. On your way out, you pass the spot where Keith once sat during morning prayer. It's empty now, but someone has laid a single blue lotus petal in his place. It's already begun to dry. The next day, a new rule is announced. From now on, priests must be examined not just for hair, but for intent. Whatever that means. You assist with the inspections. You find yourself staring not just at skin, but at eyes. At posture. At breath. Looking for something beneath the surface. And all the while you wonder, how many of us are polishing pain? How many are hiding loss under powder and oil? And if she never returns, who will we be shaving for? Meanies grows quieter over the next few days. His movements are sharper. His flute remains untouched. One afternoon, you catch him scrubbing his arms too hard, skin red, water splashing. You reach out to stop him. He jerks away. She used to come to me, he whispers, voice breaking. I felt her. In my chest. In my hands. Now I pray and nothing. You don't know what to say. So you sit beside him. In silence. And when he finally stops scrubbing, he lets his arms fall into his lap. For the first time since you met him, his skin is blotchy. Human. He doesn't try to hide it. And in that moment, you realize something unsettling. Maybe being perfect was never the point. Maybe being willing was. Maybe the smooth skin, the scent, the stillness, maybe they were just the outer layer. The real ritual was enduring the ache of not being seen. And showing up anyway. You leave Meanies there, water dripping from his fingers. That night you shave slowly. No supervision. No ritual. Just you. And the quiet truth. She might never come back. And you might still stay. Because that's what love does sometimes. It sits in silence. And waits. Dawn arrives with drums. You wake to the deep, resonant thump of stretched leather struck in a slow, deliberate rhythm, heartbeat steady, ancient. The sound doesn't ask your permission. It pulls you to your feet like a tide. Today is the festival of Hathor. You'd nearly forgotten. A once-a-year ritual that isn't hidden behind inner sanctums or whispered between brushed lips. This one is public. Loud. Dazzling. The one day when the priests step into the light, and the goddess is celebrated not in silence, but in song, in color, in movement. Meanies is already gone when you rise. In his place, a folded robe of ceremonial linen. Thinner. Wider. Edged with threads of gold. It feels lighter than air, but heavier than meaning. You dress and step into the main corridor. It's transformed. The walls are draped in blue and gold. Oil lamps have been replaced with flower garlands. The air smells of wine and warm honey. Priests bustle past you, some humming, others reciting verses. A group of acolytes are painting their cheeks with crushed rose pigment. It's as if the temple has been holding its breath for weeks, and now it finally exhales. You're ushered into a preparation chamber where the head groomer awaits. No longer a quiet, clinical process, today's cleansing is ceremonial, celebratory even. They scrub your arms with salt water, paint symbols on your chest, comb oil into your scalpless scalp with fingers so gentle it feels like prayer. Your skin is dusted with powder, your palms anointed with fig sap and lotus resin. And for the first time, the ritual feels festive. Joyful. Like maybe, just maybe, this isn't about pleasing a distant goddess. Maybe it's about becoming a part of something larger than your own quiet ache. Outside, the temple gates open. Crowds line the square, eager for the procession. They don't see you as individuals. They see a wave of white robes, golden sashes, shaven heads gleaming in the morning sun. And they cheer. Not for you, of course. But for her. Hathor. The Lady of Jubilation. The one who dances. The procession begins. Drums beat low, rising in tempo. Priests walk in pairs, each carrying tokens of the goddess, sistrums, mirrors, papyrus fans, flowers. You carry a lotus garland draped across your arms, petals trembling with each step. Beside you, Meanies walks with eyes forward. He has not spoken since the water. But his hands are steady. You wonder if, in this moment, he feels her again. You reach the great platform at the center of the square. The statue of Hathor, usually confined to the sanctuary, has been brought out, veiled in silk, adorned with garlands. She does not move. Of course she doesn't. But her presence, yes. It is here. The music swells. And then, the dance begins. Priests, trained for years, take to the platform, moving in slow, spiraling patterns. Their arms are curved, their feet bare. No stomping. No shouting. Just graceful, fluid movements, like wind moving through grass. The crowd watches, quieted, awed. And suddenly you're one of them. You don't remember stepping forward. But you do. You move with them. You feel the rhythm in your feet. The ritual in your ribs. You don't think. You don't plan. You move because it feels right. Because it's not about you anymore. You're not shaving. You're not presenting. You're not pleading. You're participating. And somewhere in the motion, somewhere between the swaying arms and circling feet, you feel something open inside you. Not a voice. Not a vision. But warmth. Deep. Calm. Present. And you know. She is here. Not above you. Not before you. But within you. Meanies is across from you. You catch his eye. He sees it too. His mouth forms a word you can't hear, but you understand. Yes. The dance ends. The drums fade. The crowd erupts in cheers. But inside the temple square, no one moves. The silence is thicker than any applause. You kneel. So does Meanies. So do the others. And together you bow, not in fear, not in desperation, but in thanks. That night, after the festival, the priests gather in the outer court, lanterns swinging in the breeze, plates of fruit and honey pass between them. It feels like a celebration. It feels like the ache has lessened. Meanie sits beside you, holding a sistrum in his lap. She came, he says. You nod. She never really left. He smiles softly. No. But we did. You sip a sweet wine made from dates and rose petals. Someone is telling a joke about the high priests. Sacred snore. Even the silence tonight feels different. Not hollow. Full. And as the lanterns flicker and the laughter dies down, you hear a soft humming behind you. One of the younger priests. Eyes closed. Singing to no one. Singing to her. You don't shave that night. You don't need to. You lie down on your mat, skin still warm from the sun, and fall asleep with the rhythm of the dance still in your bones. And the faint scent of lotus clinging to your breath. You dream. Of light. Of fragrance. Of a voice that doesn't use words, but hums somewhere deep inside your chest, like a memory you never made. And when you wake, you feel it still. Not in your fingers or your skin, but in the space behind your ribs. The temple is quieter today, not in mourning, not in withdrawal, but in reflection. Like the aftermath of a good cry, when your breath is steady and your shoulders are loose. Everyone walks a little slower. Even Meanies, whose every movement used to be deliberate and clipped, now drifts as if carried on water. You spend the morning helping prepare scrolls, copying rituals onto fresh papyrus, sealing tiny jars of pigment, polishing brushes made from ibex hair. It's meditative. The repetition grounds you. And for the first time, you notice that the ritual isn't separate from the work. The ritual is the work. Later you're summoned. Not by Meanies. Not by the high priest. By a dream. You follow it, not quite awake, not quite asleep, into a quiet corner of the temple, a narrow corridor you've never walked before. The walls here are bare. No carvings. No gold. Just plain stone and the sound of your own breath. You reach a small chamber. Empty, save for a low altar and a bowl of water. You sit. You wait. The air shifts. Not dramatically. just slightly. Like someone walking into the room and stopping just behind you. But there's no one there. You feel your pulse slow. You lean forward, hands resting on your knees. And in that stillness, you begin to speak. Not loudly. Not for anyone else to hear. Just for her. You tell her what you've seen. What you feared. What you've learned. You confess the jealousy you felt watching others sense her when you could not. You admit the hollow you carried, even as you shaved and bowed and scented your skin. You whisper, "I still don't know if I'm enough." The silence that follows isn't cold. It's warm. And in it, a thought forms, not yours, but not foreign either. You are not here to be enough. You are here to be open. You don't cry. But something inside you relaxes. Like a knot loosening. Like a door opening. You leave the chamber without ceremony. The rest of the day unfolds quietly. You help prepare oil blends, one for joy, one for clarity, one for what the scrolls call the rejoining. You walk through the garden, and the scent of fig blossoms no longer makes you ache. You shave that evening, but not to erase yourself. To reveal yourself. And when you lie down to sleep, Meanie sits beside you, holding a jar of crushed blue pigment. He's been painting. The mirror beside him is covered in tiny symbols, circles, curves, marks of breath. He looks over at you. "Do you know what these are?" he asks. You shake your head. "They're dreams," he says. "Every priest paints one before their final offering." You study the glass. Some of the symbols look like waves. Others like tears. One resembles a single line with a break in the middle. You ask, "And what's yours?" He touches the broken line. "Distance," he says. "But not abandonment. Just space to hear her better." You nod. Your eyes feel heavy. But before you drift off, you ask one last question. "Have you ever dreamed of her face?" Meanies doesn't answer right away. Then, softly, "No. Only of her voice." "What does it sound like?" He thinks. Then whispers, "Like something that remembers me before I was born." That night you dream again. But this time, you are the one dancing. Not in the temple. Not for a crowd. Just you. And her. Moving in rhythm. Not touching. Just circling. Two stars held together by gravity, not need. And when you wake, you feel that she's still there. Not beside you. But within you. And maybe, that's where she's always been. The temple is quiet again. But this time, it's a good kind of quiet. Not hollow. Not tense. Just settled. Like a cup of oil left untouched, its surface smooth and glassy. You rise before the sun. Not because you're told. Because it feels right. The air is cooler now, barely. A faint breeze rolls through the open colonnade, lifting the corners of linen drapes and stirring the scent of dried lotus petals. The old rhythms return. The wash basin. The shaving cloth. The soft rasp of the blade gliding over skin. But today, you're not rushing. You're not trying to remove something. You're not trying to become something else. You're simply here. Meanies finds you later in the sanctuary, your body still damp from the morning rinse, your scalp reflecting the faint gold of a rising sun. He hands you a thin linen ribbon. It's the color of ivory. Untouched. Plain. "This is for the offering walk," he says. You tie it on your wrist. You raise an eyebrow. "What are we offering?" "Whatever you've carried longest," he says. That stops you. You think of the ache you buried, the shame, the questions, the part of you that kept asking if you were being seen, or just performing. You tie the ribbon. The temple gathers slowly. No one speaks. Today, there's no music. No drums. Just bare feet on stone and the soft rustle of robes. The offering walk is an old tradition, Mimi says. One that predates even the current priests. Before the rules. Before the powder. Before the razors. In the oldest scrolls, it was described as a walking silence in the shape of truth. And now you walk, single file, through the outer corridors, past the gardens, past the chambers where oil was blended and scrolls were copied and tears were wept, past the storage rooms where old razors sleep like memories, until you reach the final chamber, the shrine of what was hidden. It's simple, small, no statue, no mirror. No symbols. Just a shallow pool of water, still as sleep. Each priest walks forward, stands at the edge, unties the ribbon from their wrist, and lets it fall in. You watch them go, one by one. Mimi's is ahead of you. When it's his turn, he closes his eyes and holds the ribbon for a moment longer than most. Then lets go. The ribbon lands softly on the surface of the water and drifts. He steps back. Now it's your turn. You walk forward. Stand still. You look at the water. At the other ribbons, floating like thoughts not yet spoken. You hold yours tightly for a moment. And then, slowly, you let it go. It falls. Floats. Joins the rest. You don't speak. But you feel something ease in your chest. Not gone. Not erased. Just lighter. You step back. And for a moment, just a blink, you feel her. Hather. Not above you. Not watching you. But with you. Like a breath on the back of your neck. A hand that never touches but never leaves. And for the first time, you don't need her to say anything. You don't need proof. You don't need an answer. Because love, real love, was never meant to be measured by sound or movement or miracles. It was meant to be carried. Quietly. Daily. Faithfully. Even when no one sees you. Even when your hands shake. Even when your arms grow tired of shaving. Especially then. Later you sit with Minis beneath the fig tree. He's humming again. A soft melody. Nothing grand. Just enough to keep the air company. You don't speak for a while. Eventually, he says, "You're not a visitor anymore." You nod. You know. You'll leave the temple one day. Or maybe not. But whether you stay or go, the ritual stays in you. The silence. The patience. The willingness to love what never promises to love you back. That night you shave one final time. Not because you have to. But because you can. And as the blade slides across your skin, you don't feel like you're removing anything. You feel like you're remembering. You rinse your face. Lay down. And close your eyes. The stone is cool. The night is soft. And her presence, if it ever left, is quiet again. But it doesn't feel gone. It feels still. Like breath before a kiss. Like water before a ripple. Like love that no longer needs to be proven. Just known. Just held. Just offered. The lamps are out now. The temple sleeps. And so can you. Let the rituals fade. Let the questions soften. Let the echoes dim. There's nothing more you need to do. You've been enough this whole time. Just rest. You're safe here. You're loved here. You're seen. You're seen. You're. End of script. Sweet dreams. Ask ChatGPT.